I take the train to and from work every day. It's a quiet ride. Just 40 minutes through mostly empty stretches of forest and forgotten suburbs. I usually ride in the same car, sit in the same seat, and zone out with my earbuds in. But one night, I saw something I can't explain. It was a Thursday. Late. I had to stay behind at the office to finish a report. By the time I got to the platform, the last train was already waiting, just barely lit, almost deserted. I stepped on without thinking much of it. There were only 2 other people in my car. An older man in a gray coat, hunched over and asleep, and a younger woman near the front, scrolling on her phone. I took my usual seat by the window and settled in. As the train pulled away, I noticed how quiet it was. No announcements, no rattling. Even the woman up front had her phone on silent. I figured I was just tired, maybe overly aware of the silence after such a long day. About 10 minutes into the ride, something felt wrong. I looked up and saw that the woman was gone. Not moved, not relocated to another seat, just gone. I stood up to check. Nothing. She wasn't in the car. Neither was the older man I saw earlier. It was just me. I thought maybe they'd gotten off at a stop without me noticing, but that didn't make sense. We hadn't stopped. Then I saw it. Outside the window in the passing darkness, a figure. It was keeping pace with the train, even though we were moving fast, too fast. Its head was low, arms long and stiff at its sides. I could barely make out details, just a pale, gaunt face and these dark, hollow eyes that seemed to look through the window. I blinked, and it was gone. No footsteps, no sound, just gone. I sat back down slowly. My heart was pounding, but I tried to brush it off as sleep deprivation or imagination. Something logical. Another 10 minutes passed. The train still hadn't stopped, not once. Normally, we hit at least 4 stops on the route before mine. But this time, nothing. I stood and moved to the door, hoping to get the conductor's attention. But when I got there, the door was sealed shut. Like, no handles, no emergency open latch, just solid metal. Then the lights flickered, and when they came back on, the reflection in the door's glass wasn't mine. It was that thing. That same pale face right behind me. Hollow eyes staring directly into mine. I spun around. Empty car. I backed up, breathing hard, heart hammering in my chest. I didn't know what to do. Then I heard a sound. It was coming from the other side of the door to the next car. Slow, deliberate, like fingernails. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. Then, louder this time. Closer. I ran back to my seat and grabbed my bag, pulling out the emergency train map. But the route was different. It didn't even show the regular line I took every day. Just a single unbroken path, leading to a station I'd never seen before. One word written in faded ink. Terminus. At that point, I started to panic. My phone had no signal. The emergency button near the door was dead. The lights flickered again, then dimmed completely. And the train started to slow down. Finally, it came to a stop. The doors opened with a hiss, and I saw nothing but fog outside. Thick, gray, unnatural fog. I didn't want to get off, but something told me staying wasn't safer. So I stepped out. The platform was cold, wet. I could hear distant dripping and something that sounded like breathing. Not mine. I turned to look back at the train, and that's when I saw them. Dozens of them, figures, standing inside the car, watching me, each one pale, hollow-eyed, expressionless, and behind them in the conductor's booth, the same figure I saw outside the window. Its hand was raised, slowly pointing right at me. I stumbled backward onto the platform, heart racing, legs barely responding. The doors hissed shut, The train began to move again, and the last thing I saw through the rear window was that thing's face pressed to the glass, smiling. The train disappeared into the fog, leaving me alone on that platform. I wandered for what felt like hours before I found stairs leading up to an old road. Somehow I made my way back to town. No one believed me. Not the police. Not my coworkers. They said there's no such stop on that line, that the train never ran that late, that there's no station called Terminus. I even checked the security cameras at the station. They show me walking in, but I never get on the train. It just disappears. And ever since that night, sometimes late at night when I can't sleep, I hear that tapping, soft, deliberate, from the window. I take the train every Thursday night. It's the last one out from Chicago to Minneapolis, quiet, cold, and practically empty by the time we reach Wisconsin. About 6 months ago, I had a strange experience on that very route, one I still think about every time I step into that train car. That night, it was snowing hard. The city lights faded quickly behind me as the train moved into the countryside. Just a thick blanket of white outside, and the occasional flicker of a crossing signal. There were maybe 5 other passengers scattered throughout the car. Everyone was quiet. No phones ringing, no conversations, just the low hum of the train and the occasional creak as it shifted on the tracks. I was in the third car from the back, reading something on my phone, trying to stay awake, when I felt a slight jolt, like the train hit a small bump. Nothing major, but it was enough to make me glance up. That's when I noticed something odd. The door at the back of the car, the one that connects to the next, it was closed. But I saw movement through the narrow window, a figure, standing still, not moving forward, not coming through, just standing there, for way too long. At first I thought it might have been a conductor, but usually they walk through quickly, checking tickets or heading up front. This guy just stood there. He was tall, wearing a thick, dark coat, but I couldn't make out his face. The window was fogged up slightly, and the lights above him flickered. I tried not to overthink it. Went back to my phone, assuming maybe he was just resting or looking for something in his bag. But 5 minutes later, he was still there. Same position, same dead stillness. That's when I felt it. This uneasy feeling, like I was being watched. I turned slowly, looked around. Everyone else in the car was asleep or glued to their screens, except me and him, still standing there. I got up, walked a few steps toward the back, like I was heading to the restroom. As I approached the door, the train rocked slightly and the lights flickered again. That's when I saw him up close, through the narrow glass. He had no expression, no bags, no name tag, and his eyes, they weren't normal, not glowing or anything dramatic, just empty. Like he wasn't really looking at me, more like he was looking through me. I froze for a second, then turned back toward my seat, fast. I sat down, trying not to panic. It was probably just some weird guy, maybe drunk, maybe lost. But then, the door handle clicked. Very slowly, it turned, and the door eased open with a long metallic creak. He stepped inside the car, and everything went quiet, like the hum of the train dropped in volume. Even the heater, it sounded distant now. He didn't walk down the aisle, just stood near the back, his head slightly tilted, watching. I kept my eyes forward, pretending to scroll, but I could feel it, his stare drilling into the back of my skull. 10 seconds, 20. Then I heard a whisper, not loud, not sharp, just this dry, dragging voice, almost like it was coming from inside my own ears. "Why are you in my car?" I didn't react, didn't even breathe. I just kept my eyes on the screen, though I wasn't reading anything anymore. Then I heard a shuffle, like he took a step forward, and that's when the train jolted again, a bigger bump this time. Lights blinked hard, then steadied, and when I looked back, he was gone. No footsteps, no door opening, Just gone. The back door was closed again. No sign of him in the next car either. I checked the window. I asked the conductor later casually if there was another staff member on board that night. He looked confused. Said no. He'd been running the whole train himself for the last 2 hours. I didn't tell him what I saw. But the next week, I changed my route. Now I sit near the front, closest to the engine, and I never, ever look back. Last summer, I took a solo road trip through Oregon. The plan was simple. Hit a few national parks, sleep in the car if I had to, just get away from everything. One evening, I was driving through a stretch of forest. No houses, no lights, just pine trees stretching forever. I'd been on the road for 5 hours straight, and I needed a break. That's when I saw the sign, rest area, 2 miles. I pulled in when I reached it. It wasn't much, just a single lot surrounded by dense trees. There was one dim streetlight, one vending machine, and a small building with bathrooms that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since the 90s. But I didn't care. I was exhausted. I parked under the light, leaned my seat back, and closed my eyes. Just for a minute. When I opened them again, it was dark. Not sunset dark, but pitch black. I must have been out for at least an hour. I reached for my phone, 2:11 a.m. The parking lot was empty. Even the vending machine's glow was gone. That's when I noticed something weird. There was no sound, like none. No wind, no bugs, no cars in the distance, just silence. I sat up, glanced around, and that's when I saw it, across the lot, by the bathroom door. A shadow. Not moving, not pacing, just standing. I couldn't see a face, couldn't even tell if it was a man or woman. Just a silhouette, tall and stiff in the dark. I locked my doors, turned on the engine. The headlights hit it directly, but there was nothing there. Just the door, slightly open. I could feel the hair rise on my arms. I didn't imagine that. I know what I saw. Still, I tried to tell myself it was just a trick of the light. Maybe a tree, maybe nothing. I was about to back out when I noticed something else. There was movement behind my car. I checked the rearview mirror. Nothing. But when I turned my head, I saw a figure just for a second, crouched low, almost like it was crawling. And then it vanished behind the vending machine. That's when I hit the gas. Tires squealed on the gravel. I shot out of there like my life depended on it, and maybe it did. About a mile down the road, I pulled into a gas station. Lit, open, safe. I ran inside and told the clerk everything. He didn't laugh, didn't look surprised either. He just nodded slowly, then said something that still sticks with me. "You must have stopped at the one off Pine Hollow Road." I nodded. "Yeah, that was the one." He said, "Yeah, you're not the first one to say something like that. People see things there, shadows, hear voices. Some folks never come back to tell their story." I asked him what he meant. He just shrugged, then said, "Cops found a guy last year, locked in the bathroom. No signs of trauma, but his face, it looked like he died screaming. I haven't been back to Oregon since, and I never, ever stop at rest areas after dark." This happened in the fall of 2014. I was 22, fresh out of college, and doing some traveling before starting my job. I had this thing for small towns and scenic train rides, so I booked a slow route through the Appalachian Mountains. It was supposed to be peaceful, a kind of solo reset before diving into real life. The train was old-fashioned, not vintage, but clearly a few decades behind. It rattled more than it should have, but I liked the charm. There were maybe 20 people in the whole car, quiet folks, mostly keeping to themselves. We left around noon. By 4 p.m. the sun was already dipping below the hills, and the world outside turned dark fast. At one point, we entered a long tunnel. That's not unusual for that route. There are dozens, but this one felt off. It was too long. I remember glancing at my watch when we entered. It read 4:32 p.m. After a few minutes, I noticed something strange. We were still in the tunnel. I looked out the window, just black. No lights, no hint of walls or exit. I waited, but after a while, people started whispering. A woman 2 rows up said, "Are we stuck?" A guy across the aisle replied, "No. I feel us moving." He was right. We were still gliding forward, but the tunnel just wouldn't end. I checked the time again, 4:45 p.m. 13 minutes. We should have passed through 3 or 4 tunnels by now. Then, all the lights in the train flickered, just once, enough to make a few people gasp. Then everything dimmed slightly, not totally out, just lower, like a brownout. That's when I noticed the windows. There was something wrong with them. At first, I thought they were fogged, but no, it was more like they were rippling, like the glass itself was melting or breathing. People were murmuring now, getting nervous. A baby started crying somewhere toward the back. Then, the train stopped. No announcement, no lurch, it just coasted to a halt. Dead silence. You know that deep hum trains always have underneath everything? That vibration? Gone. No sound, no motion. We sat there, in that black tunnel, staring into nothing. Someone stood up and said, "I'm going to ask the conductor what's going on." He walked toward the front car. We waited. 5 minutes. 10. He didn't come back. Someone else stood up, a middle-aged man with a serious face. He made it to the next car. Didn't return either. That's when panic started. Some people started walking the aisles. Others pulled out phones, but there was no signal, not even one bar. A woman tried to open the emergency door. It was sealed, like fused shut. She banged on it, shouting, "Hello, anyone out there?" No answer. I looked out the window again, and I swear there was something in the dark. Not a shape, not a figure. More like movement. The blackness outside wasn't just dark, it was alive. It shimmered. Like something was shifting behind the glass, just out of sight. Someone screamed from the back of the car. A man, maybe in his 60s, was standing up, pointing at the ceiling. "There's something up there." We all looked. Nothing. But then the lights flickered again, and I saw it. Just for a split second, something was crawling, upside down, along the ceiling of the car. Long limbs, no face, just a smooth gray head that turned toward us. Then it was gone. Lights snapped back to normal. People were freaking out now. One guy tried to break a window with his suitcase. It didn't even crack. Then a voice came over the intercom. But it wasn't the conductor. It was wrong. Too slow, too deep. Like someone was playing a tape in reverse. The voice said something none of us could understand. Then it laughed. That laugh, it didn't sound human. It echoed through the car like it was coming from all directions, inside our heads. I grabbed my backpack, ready to bolt. But where would I even go? We were trapped. Then, just like that, the train jolted. Lights came back to full brightness. The hum returned. The windows cleared. We were back in daylight, like nothing had happened. I looked at my watch. It was 4:33 p.m. We'd only been in the tunnel for 1 minute. Everyone looked around, stunned. Some people were crying. Others were dead silent, staring straight ahead. The conductor walked through the car like everything was fine. Asked if anyone wanted coffee. I pulled him aside, told him what happened. He looked at me for a long moment, then said, "You were in car 7, right?" I nodded. He didn't smile, didn't blink, just said, Car 7 always gets weird near that tunnel. We don't talk about it. Just be glad you're out. I got off at the next stop. Didn't finish the trip. Booked a flight home instead. And I haven't stepped foot on a train since.